I'm Jenny Ramsey, and I would like to share with you my owl tote bag and how I made him. So the owl itself is from a previous project I did. If you're curious about how I did it, then you are welcome to look at my video, the 2022 Cherrywood Fabric Challenge. My mom kind of fell in love with the first guy, and she was worried that since I wasn't using him in the other project, that I was just going to throw him away. And she asked me to please make something with him. And so I made a owl tote bag. If you want to see how I did that, why don't you come and I'll show you how I did it.
First, gather the supplies. Then I needed to prepare the owl applique. I wanted to put Misty Fuse fusible web on the back of the owl. I use a silicone pressing sheet so that the Misty Fuse sticks to the owl and not to my iron. And then cut him out with a thin black border. I played around with how much and what angle I wanted him peeking out from the bottom, because once cut, there was no going back. I fused him onto the gray background fabric and finally ran a small tight zigzag to applique him on. There he is! I sewed a black border along the bottom and made a back panel to match. On to my favorite part, the quilting. First, I drew a 1-inch diagonal grid. Then, I made the 3-layer quilt sandwich. Back, batting, and top. I find the quilting to be relaxing, almost meditative. I can daydream and still feel like I'm accomplishing something. After the quilting is done, I square up the front and back panels. Then I move on to putting a pocket in the back panel. I cut it where I want the zipper to sit. The light blue fabric is for the pocket lining. I added gray tabs to the end of my zipper. I trimmed the zippers, but not with my fabric scissors, with my other scissors. Then square the tabs up. In order to create the pocket, I layer the lining right side down, the outer quilted layer, just the bottom half, and then the zipper and pin. I put a zipper foot on my machine and sew the 3 layers together. This part is a little fussy. I iron the edge under and top stitch it so the zipper lays flat and it will lay behind the outer panels. For the top seam, layer the top quilted section, then the zipper/bottom quilted section, and finally the top edge of the pocket lining. Once again, I turn the seam under, iron and top stitch so the zipper runs smooth. As you can see, the pocket lining still has open sides, so just sew those up and voila! You have a back panel with a pocket. Here are the front and back panels ready to be joined together. How, you may ask? Well, with a side gusset. I took the same steps to construct the gusset. I drew the grid, I quilted it, and squared it up. The reason I chose a gusset was because I wanted to add side pockets. Here's a rough draft figuring out the measurements of the pocket piece with seam allowances. I added an elastic sleeve along the top. The iron helped me make creases to construct the bottom corners. I matched those creases up to sew 2 little box corners for my pockets. Time to sew it to the gusset. Say that 5 times fast. The bottom edge needed to be turned under, but the sides would be covered by the bag's side seams, so I could leave those free. There's 1 side pocket and 2. Next, I sewed the side gusset onto the front panel. I always start with the bottom edge, then work my way around the corners and up the sides. There's the bag with the side gusset attached to the front panel. Now, on to sewing the back panel onto the side gusset. Start at the bottom again, then corners and up the sides. And there he is, the outer construction done. Front and back panels joined by a side gusset with pockets. For the lining, I wanted a zipper set inside the bag a bit. I did this with a zipper placket. To make the zipper placket, I sewed the gray fabric on top of the zipper and the blue lining fabric on the bottom inside part of the zipper. To attach the zipper piece to the lining, I layered the lining fabric, then the zipper, then the top band of gray, and sewed that together for both sides. Once the zipper was in place, I was able to sew the front and back sides and bottom together so it makes a flat bag. To make box corners in the lining, I matched up the side and bottom seams, marked how wide the corner was, and then sewed across, creating cute little box corners. To give the lining a little more structure, I ironed and then sewed a very narrow seam along each edge. See? A nice little box. Before I attach the lining to the bag, I need to open a small space in the bottom seam so I can pull it through. And then I also added a fun label for my mom. I'm making the bag handles out of the black fabric. First I cut them out, then sew a long tube and turn it inside out, iron, and top stitch. For the placement and length of the straps, I used a bag I like to carry as a model. Then I pinned the straps in place. Next, I put the outer shell into the lining right sides together. Then pin the upper edges in place and sew them together. Okay, now it's getting exciting! That hole I opened in the bottom lining seam can be used to pull the bag through and turn everything right side out again. Tuck the lining down into the bag. Press it down so I can run a top stitch all along the edge and hold everything in place. All that's left is to sew up the hole in the bottom edge of the lining. And there it is, my finished owl tote bag.
Okay, now pretend I'm my mom, I'm all dressed for work, and I'm ready to go. Hold on. My bag, you say? Well, my daughter made this for me when I go to work. So, I'm just kind of playing around. But I did want you to know that I am turning 50 this year, and my mom was older than 15 when she had me. So if you do the math, she is still going off to a hospital floor nursing job many evenings a week, and I am in total awe of her and her ability to do that. And so it's fun to be able to do something to help celebrate her and all she does. Have a nice day.